Trev's Hockey Show. I'm the Trev. That's too sweet. Anyway, continuing with retired numbers. And today, we're talking about not only the second number retired by the Philadelphia Flyers, but also probably the best goalie the team has ever had. Ever. I'm taking Lindbergh into consideration when I say that as well. But today, we're going to talk about the number one, which is worn by Bernie Parent. So, let's talk about it. Alright, so Bernie Parent's 10-year career with the Philadelphia Flyers began on June 6th, 1967, when Parent was selected by the Philadelphia Flyers in the 1967 expansion draft from the Boston Bruins. Ironically enough, the Flyers would select two goalies from the Boston Bruins, also selecting Doug Favell, who, between himself and Parent, would split the goaltending duties for the inaugural Flyers season. Parent would start the first Flyers game in regular season history, which turned out to be a 5-1 loss to the California Seals, but he would pick up his first win for the Flyers on November 4th, 1967, in a 4-1 win against the Montreal Canadiens. And Parent would also record his first shutout for the Flyers on December 16th, 1967, in a 1-0 win against the St. Louis Blues. Now, all told, Parent would contribute a 16, 17, and 5 record in 38 games with a 2.48 goals against average and a .925 save percentage, with 4 shutouts to help the Flyers win the Western Division. Funny enough, a lot of the quote-unquote experts at the time predicted the Flyers to be the worst of the new expansion teams. Funny how that turned out, because the same experts said the California Seals would be first in the West. And we're going to go down that history eventually. But with that first place finish, the Flyers were guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, but they would lose in 7 games to the Stanley Cup finalists, that being the St. Louis Blues. And Parent would play 5 games, putting up a 2-3 record with a 1.35 goals against and a .963 save percentage. So, playoff Parent is starting to show his head in the first season. Now, the 68-69 season wasn't nearly as successful for the Flyers compared to their first season, but Parent would play in not just more games, but also his first of 5 NHL All-Star games, while contributing a 17, 23, and 16 record in 58 games played, with a 2.69 goals against and a .925 save percentage with 1 shutout. Now, while the Flyers did manage to make the playoffs, they would lose in 4 straight games to, again, the eventual Stanley Cup finalists, the St. Louis Blues, with Parent playing in 3 of those 4, with a shuddering 4 goals against and a .872 save percentage. So, playoff Parent wasn't there. The 1969-70 season would see the Flyers miss the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. But it did see Parent increase his workload again, playing in 62 games, putting up a 13, 29, and 20 record, with a 2.79 goals against and a .921 save percentage with 3 shutouts. The 1970-71 season would see Parent playing 30 games for the Flyers before ultimately a decision was made. For the sake of better offense and not so much defense, the Flyers would trade Parent and a second-round pick in the 1971 NHL Amateur Draft to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Bruce Gamble and a first-round pick in that same NHL Amateur Draft on February 1st, 1971. Now, in those 30 games, Parent would have a 9, 12, and 6 record with a 2.76 goals against and a .912 save percentage with 2 shutouts. And that was essentially the first run with the Flyers. And while the stats in the first 3 seasons don't sound all the best, they do eventually get better. So after a year and a bit with the Toronto Maple Leafs, as well as a year with the Philadelphia Blazers of the WHA. Fun fact, Perron was the first player to sign with the World Hockey Association. The more you know. And after a bit of a contract dispute with the Blazers, Perron made the decision he wanted to come back to the NHL for the 1973-74 season, but did not want to play in Toronto. So, best thing to do is have your rights traded, and his rights were traded back to the Philadelphia Flyers on May 15th, 1973, along with Toronto's second-round pick in the 1973 amateur draft for, of all people, Doug Favell, and the Flyers' first-round pick in the same 1973 NHL entry draft. So, essentially, it was a reverse trade. And truth be told, Perron coming back to the Flyers would be beneficial for all parties involved, goalie and team alike. Perron will play in 73 games in a 78-game schedule. That's unheard of these days. Putting up a team record and former NHL record in wins with 47, to go with 13 losses and 12 ties, and a league best 1.89 goals against, to go with a 9.933 save percentage, and a team record and league best 12 shutouts, as the Flyers have finished first in the Western Division for the first time since their inaugural season in 1967-68. Now we can talk about playoff Perron. In the playoffs, the Flyers would sweep the Atlanta Flames before going the distance with the New York Rangers to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in franchise history. Now, to their luck, or their detriment, depending on which side of the fence you sit on, the Flyers would draw Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito, and the Boston Bruins. However, the Flyers were also well morphed into the Broad Street Bullies by this point. But that old adage, Perron and the Flyers had basically the Bruins outdone in every possible way, beating Bobby Orr and company in 6 games for their first Stanley Cup victory in their franchise history. Now, for his part, Perron would contribute a 12-5 record in 17 games with a 2.02 goals against, a .933 save percentage, as well as 2 shutouts. On top of the Stanley Cup, Perron would also win the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP to go along with his co-win of the Vezina Trophy for fewest goals against. It was fewest goals against at that time, not best goaltender, as well as being named to the NHL's first All-Star team for the first time in his career. Heck of a comeback. The 1974-75 season was pretty much more the same as far as team and Perron were concerned. The Flyers had the best record in the league, with Perron playing in 68 games. So 10 off of a full season and 5 less than the year previous, putting up a league best 44 wins to go with his 14 losses and 10 ties, with a 2.03 goals against, a .918 save percentage, and repeating with the league best 12 shutouts. Now, obviously, the idea going into the playoffs was repeat, 2-time Stanley Cup champs. And really, there really wasn't much more conviction needed. After a first-round bye, the Flyers swept the Toronto Maple Leafs and took the New York Islanders out in 7 games on the way to meeting the Buffalo Sabres for the Stanley Cup. Now, despite even the fog game, yeah, he was part of the fog game, the Flyers would beat the Sabres in 6 games to win their second consecutive Stanley Cup championship. Now, Perron would again play every game, which was 15 of them, putting up a 10-5 record with a 1.89 goals against and a .924 save percentage with 4 shutouts. Now, in the spirit of repeats, Perron would again be named Conn Smythe Trophy winner for the second straight year, along with another Vezina Trophy for fewest goals against. Fun fact, Perron would be the second player to win the award twice, the first goalie to win the award twice, but more importantly, the first player to win the Conn Smythe Trophy back-to-back. The more you know. on top of also being named to his second first NHL All-Star team again. 1975-76 was essentially supposed to be more of the same for Perron, if not better. However, a preseason injury would limit him to only 11 games for the 75-76 season, putting up a 6-2-3 record with a 2.34 goals against, a .907 save percentage. Now, the Flyers would make the playoffs again, and after another first-round bye, the Flyers would eliminate the Maple Leafs in 7 and the Boston Bruins in 5 on their way to their third straight Stanley Cup Finals. So obviously, the idea is three-peat, right? I wished I could say three-peat was on the horizon, but the two-time defending Cup champs were merely swept in 4 by the Montreal Canadiens. Ouch. Perron would play in 8 games, putting up a 4-4 record with a 3.38 goals against and a .892 save percentage. So I think playoff Perron might have exited stage left. The 76-77 season would be the 5th and final time Perron would represent the Philadelphia Flyers at the NHL All-Star Game. And I'd see Perron play a normal Perron schedule. I use normal loosely. In 61 games, Perron would have a 35-13-12 record with a 2.71 goals against, a .899 save percentage, as well as 5 shutouts. So, reestablishing form. We're getting there. Those, though, would help the Flyers finish first in the Patrick division. Now, of course, making the playoffs again, after a 6-game series against the Maple Leafs, the Flyers would end up facing eventual Stanley Cup finalists, the Boston Bruins, losing in a 4-game sweep. Yeah, playoff Perron is not there. Perron would only play in 3 of those games. All of them losses, again, happens in a 4-game sweep, with a 3.90 goals against and a .814 save percentage. So not only is playoff Perron exited stage left, he's probably running around the block a couple times right now. Definitely not the same Stanley Cup numbers. The 1977-78 season would be Perron's final full season, and looking to regain the form of only a few years prior in a league that was starting to go to be the way of a playground for most goal scorers. Perron and his stand-up style of play had to change, and it was for the change. You don't change just because you need to change, you change because of change. In 49 games, though, Perron would contribute a 29-6-13 record with a 2.22 goals against, a .912 save percentage, with a league-leading 7 shutouts. Now, even though the Flyers lost their place on top of the divisions for the first time in what feels like forever, they'd still make the playoffs, going past the Colorado Rockies in the preliminary round before beating the Buffalo Sabres in 5, before repeating history the previous season, losing in 5 to eventual Stanley Cup finalists, the Boston Bruins. Now, in 12 of those playoff games, Perron would put up a 5-7 record with a .891 goals against and a 2.74 save percentage. Ouch, those numbers. Ouch. Which brings us to the 1978-79 season, which would end up being Perron's last professional season, thanks in large part to a career-ending injury on February 17, 1979, against the New York Rangers. Now, in the 36 games he did play, Perron would post a 16-12-7 record with a 2.70 goals against and an 8.93 save percentage to go with 4 shutouts. Now, obviously it sucks when an injury takes a player out of the game. So, long and short, that's the career of Bernie Perron with the Philadelphia Flyers. Let's talk some achievements. So, in 486 career games played with the Philadelphia Flyers, his 231 wins, 141 losses, a team record 104 ties, Yeah, ties were a thing back then. To go with a career best or career record or career goals against average of 2.43, a .917 save percentage, a team record 50 shutouts, as well as putting up 9 assists. Now, as far as playoff Perron is concerned, 63 games played, 35 wins, 28 losses, a 2.39 goals against, a .916 save percentage, and 6 shutouts. No assists to speak of. He's a 5-time NHL All-Star, playing in the 1969, 1970, 1974, 1975, and 1977 NHL All-Star games, as well as being a 2-time first NHL All-Star team nominee, being in 1974 and 1975, to go along with his 2 Vezina trophies from the same 2 years, to go with his 2 Conn Smythe trophies from 74 and 75, as well as a 2-time Stanley Cup champ, again from 74 and 1975. Now, as far as team records is concerned, he still holds the team record for most wins in a season with 47, which he accomplished in 1973-74, as well as the most shutouts in a season, which he did twice in the 73-74 and 74-75 seasons. He is named one of the 100 greatest players by the NHL during the NHL Centennial season. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1984 and has his number retired by the Philadelphia Flyers on October 11th, 1979. Again, second player in Flyers history to have their number retired. So, let's go over the general consensus. So, little before my time, but thanks to YouTube, you get to watch all kinds of highlights on players that were just slightly before your time. Obviously considered one of the best goalies, not just of all time, not just in Flyers history, but also of the stand-up style, which predated the butterfly, but was a popular style amongst many goalies, 60s and 70s, in and around that era. And when he was on. Oh, they got 2 cups for when he was on. He took them to a third, even with an injury. Posting 50 shutouts in his time in Philly, that's unheard of. Well, I mean, you get lots of guys posting 50 shutouts, but never with the same team. I'm sure if I said at the start of this, probably the best goalie the Flyers have ever had, I'm not lying. It's the truth. I mean, you take every Flyers goalie that has come and gone in history. Perron has to be one. Lindbergh, Hextall, those are really the best goalies they've ever had. And Perron's still the top of that list. But either way, that's the story of the number 1, which is retired by the Philadelphia Flyers. So that's another one of them Trev's hockey shows. I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't think I don't appreciate the gesture, especially if you've made it to this point. And if you have made it to this point, hey, please feel good free to give me that thumbs up. I know I've taken up a lot of time in this one, but most Retired Numbers videos usually do. But hey, let me know you're here. Let me know you've made it to this point. Give me a thumbs up. I think I've earned it. That red button that says subscribe all over it, hey, if you're not considering it now, you should consider it. It'll make you feel good. It'll make me feel good. It'll make my algorithm feel good. And we're on that mad push for 500, so let's help the Trev make that happen. All right, well, I got one more written, one nearly finished. Here's hoping I can get them done before Monday, because like it or not, the cup's being awarded Monday, so you're getting 2 videos on Monday. But either way, in the meantime, and in between time, be looking for more videos from Trev. Later.